Welcome back to Birds of a Feather. This is your daily Baltimore sports podcast. My name is Nathan Stroud, and today we're going to be going over in full, in detail, fully recapping the Ravens' 23-10 win over the New York Jets on this fine Sunday evening. The Ravens get a big win over the Jets. They win by 13. The game was a very interesting game, I'll say that. We're going to go over this game in full. There's a lot of stuff to go over in this game. Some positives, some negatives. Not the cleanest, most, smooth game in the world, but the Ravens do get a win. They've won 5 games in a row, and they are currently sitting first in the AFC North. And I think that, to me, is the biggest thing in this game, or the biggest result of this game, is the fact that the Ravens are currently sitting first in the AFC North thanks to some help from the Chicago Bears, who beat the Steelers today by 3. Shout out to the Chicago Bears. Bear down. Shout out to them. They get a big win over the Steelers. And Ravens win. Steelers lose. Bengals lose. The Browns win, but, shout out Shador, but, we're not worried about the Browns in the division. But the Bengals lose, which is always nice. The Steelers lose, which is extra nice, and the Ravens win, which is always the best part of it all. So the Ravens are currently sitting first in the AFC North right now, which is crazy. We were 1-5. Things were looking really bad. But this team really did come together and fight through a lot of stuff. There's been some injuries to this Ravens team. Obviously, earlier on in the season, we were dealing with a lot of injuries. Then things ended up getting better. And then, over the past couple of weeks, we've dealt with some more injuries. And there was an injury that occurred in today's game that was pretty serious that we'll go over later on in the episode. But right now, I just do want to say, obviously, I'm happy about the Ravens win. Obviously, I'm happy that they're able to get the win. But I will say, fair warning, I'm not overjoyous about the win. I'm not jumping up and down, oh my god, we won, whatever. Because this game was very sloppy for the first half. The first half was incredibly disappointing. The Ravens were losing 7-3 in the first half against the New York Jets. It was a disaster class in the first half. It was horrible. And then the Ravens were able to score 20 second half points and we were able to outscore the Jets 20-3 in the second half, and we looked more like ourselves, but it's not really to the satisfactory point that I think a lot of people, including myself, expect from this team. I do quickly want to shout out the special teams. They were incredible all game. The returns were good. And more importantly, Jordan Stout, the punter, had some absolutely incredible punts today, pinning the Jets deep downfield, back in their own territory, really deep downfield. So shout out to Jordan Stout. You can argue Jordan Stout was the best player of the day for the Ravens. He was incredible. And I do obviously also want to give a shout out to the defense. They had a couple little mishaps. They were doing some running back screens to Breece Hall that was getting a ton of yardage. But throughout the game, they're especially at the end as well, they're really able to kind of close out this game. The defense did its thing. They did good in the red zone. They did good in general. I think the Jets had more total yards than the Ravens in this game, but that is more on the offense. The main part of today that I do want to go over is going to be pretty much fully centered around the offense, because that is the biggest glaring issue with this team right now, which I never thought I would have been saying at all. You would think that this offense would be automatic just with the guys that are on the field, but I think... In my opinion, I think Lamar Jackson's playing through injury, but enough talking about this right now. Let's go over the box score, and we'll obviously talk about everything from there. So going over the game, the Ravens win 23-10 over the Jets. A big win. Obviously, a 13-point win, you'll take that. Team scored 23, only gave up 10, you'll take that. But if you go quarter by quarter, it was 0-0 after the first quarter. Then we were losing 7-3 going into halftime. Then the Ravens scored 14 points in the third quarter, and then we scored 6 points in the fourth quarter. And overall, the Ravens won 23-10. I do want to go over the box score real quick, and I'm going to make this known right now. I think that this was Lamar Jackson's worst game he's played. I'm going to be real. This might be Lamar's worst game he's played as an NFL player. I think that this was one of the worst offensive games I've seen from a Lamar Jackson-led offense. And there's a lot of things that stem from that. One, the offensive line is still a huge problem. The offensive line is garbage. Daniel Falele, Tyler Linderbaum, Roger Rosengarten, Andrew Voorhees, all these guys. It was a disaster today on the offensive line. We did only give up 1 sack, which at this point is kind of a celebration because of how much Lamar's been getting hit. He did only take 1 sack in this game. He was able to get the ball out a lot, quicker and smoother, I guess, than we've seen before. But I do want to make it known about Lamar that these past 2 games that he's played, especially today, because last game he had 2 interceptions, but neither of those interceptions were his fault, but it really did obviously affect his stat line. Today, Lamar Jackson was 13 for 23, 153 yards, 0 touchdowns, 0 turnovers, with a 34 quarterback rating and a 76 passer rating. Very bad. I think this has to be Lamar's worst game of his professional career in the NFL. And I'm going to be honest, this might be one of the worst games of Lamar's career. Like, this might be the worst Lamar's looked in his football playing career, even going back to Louisville. So a very, very disappointing day for Lamar. But to anyone who thinks that he's just getting worse, you're dumb. That's not what's happening. I think it's very clear what's happening with Lamar. I think he is playing hurt. I think he is 100% hurt. And even when you go back to the Miami Dolphins game, that's the game that he came back, because he's been back now for 4 games. The Dolphins game, the Vikings game, the Browns game, and this Jets game. And we're 4-0 since he's been back. Obviously, we've won the past 5, including that Bears win with Tyler Huntley. That really, started everything. But Lamar Jackson, he's playing hurt. And obviously, a lot of people were asking him that question after the game. A lot of reporters were asking him that question after the game in the media. And because it just doesn't feel right, you know what I mean? Like, all of a sudden, Lamar Jackson dealing with that hamstring injury, dealing with knee soreness, dealing with a foot injury, whatever it is. Dealing with that ankle injury that he was out of Wednesday's practice with, dealing with the knee injury the week before, and then obviously dealing with the hamstring injury that he was out for a few weeks with. It's very weird that all of a sudden, he comes back from these injuries, quote unquote, that he says aren't important and he says that aren't serious, but then, like, throughout the week, he'll say that these injuries aren't important, aren't serious, he's fine, he's good to go. And then when he goes on the field, it just doesn't look like Lamar. Like, this doesn't look like the Lamar Jackson we know. We know what Lamar Jackson is supposed to look like in these games. Throughout his career, he's dominated the Jets. The Jets do not have a good defense, and they did a solid job for a good bit of this game on really containing Lamar Jackson. And a big part of that is that Lamar Jackson can't really move right now. And when I say can't really move, I'm not talking about like rushing the football like down the field. I'm talking about in the pocket. And when you combine how bad this offensive line has been for the Ravens, and you combine that with the fact that Lamar Jackson is playing hurt and he can't be as mobile, when you mix those two together, it kind of leads to a disaster. Because I think what we're starting to realize is Lamar Jackson's speed and his agility in the pocket has really kind of has done a really good job at like disguising and masking how kind of not great the offensive line has been for the Ravens over the past few years. Like Lamar Jackson has done obviously some extremely magical things. The pocket starts collapsing on him. He rolls out, makes some magical moment play happen, extends the play, makes a big throw downfield, or runs the football himself. Like, we've seen that so many times from him, but he's just not doing that right now. He's not really extending the play, and he's certainly not rushing upfield with the ball. Lamar Jackson in this game had 7 carries for 11 yards. Like, that you just don't see that with him. You know what I mean? You just do not see those type of rushes for Lamar. And whenever he decided that he was going to take off, he couldn't really like put his foot down and like change direction. You know what I'm saying? Like, it just, and his top speed, like the acceleration's just not there. You can tell, and you can just tell he's playing a little conservative, and he's just playing hurt. Like, you can just tell. And if there's people that think that he's not playing hurt, Lamar Jackson said it himself that he doesn't think that the injuries are limiting him. He thinks that he's playing fine, that they just have to execute better. But a part of that is Lamar Jackson's play. And I'm not going to sit here and defend Lamar Jackson and say whatever because he didn't play well today. He didn't. The reason why the Ravens won this game was not because of Lamar Jackson. The reason why the Ravens won this game is because of their defense and their special teams. That is why they won this game. This offense was a disaster for a majority of this game. And shout out to Derrick Henry for getting those 2 touchdowns because other than the 2 touchdowns that Derrick Henry had, he didn't really have any big plays or big gains. And I'm not blaming Derrick Henry because this offensive line is absolute garbage. And Lamar Jackson even as well, this offensive line is garbage. Like, Lamar Jackson was getting pressured a lot in this game. He only got sacked once, but he was able to get the ball out. But he was getting pressured a lot. Derrick Henry, once again, gets the ball, gets hit behind the line of scrimmage. No holes for him to run through. But he does come up with the 2 touchdowns today, which was huge, obviously, for the Ravens. But the biggest things are the offensive line, Lamar Jackson's health, and just the red zone offense. Like those have been the things for the past few weeks, and it's just not getting really any better, it seems. And we're on a short week. We're on a short week. We play Thanksgiving night this upcoming Thursday against the Bengals on primetime, where we're most likely going to be playing against Joe Burrow. And what's going to make that even worse is that Kyle Hamilton left the game today with an injury. With a foot injury. I don't know what the exact injury is. I thought for a second it was a hamstring, but now I think people are saying that it's a foot injury. And John Harbaugh, after the game, was asked about it. It's obviously a big deal. John Harbaugh was asked about it, and he said that it was not a major injury, so this should not be an injury that's going to keep him out for an extended period of time. Obviously, we know how badly Kyle Hamilton wants to be out there. We know how badly he wants to play, and I wouldn't be surprised if he's out there on Thursday. But if he's not out there on Thursday, if Kyle Hamilton is not out there on Thursday, we are cooked facing Joe Burrow and an angry Jamar Chase coming off of a suspension. They're most likely not going to have T. Higgins, which is obviously going to benefit the Ravens, but they are going to have Jamar and most likely Joe Burrow, and it's going to be scary times because Kyle Hamilton is the core of our defense, and we're asking him to play so many different positions and make it difficult on opponents, and without him it's going to be really, really, really tough to have a consistent flowing defense. But again, we'll see what happens. We'll see, tomorrow and Tuesday and Wednesday what the updates on injuries and stuff look like. But it's not looking great for Kyle Hamilton, but it's not supposed to be a huge injury, which is good. But again, I kind of want to go back to the box score. Lamar Jackson, not a great game at all. Derrick Henry, on paper, he averages 3 yards per carry. That's not good, but he does have the 2 touchdowns that made up for it. Zay Flowers, 2 carries, 11 yards. Keaton Mitchell had 2 carries for 10 yards. Mark Andrews had 2 carries for 2 yards on the tush pushes. So on paper, Derrick Henry pretty much got all the carries in the backfield. Lamar had 7 carries himself for 11 yards, which was very concerning. But going over to the receiving, Zay Flowers once again does everything for the Ravens in terms of receiving. He had 1/3 of the Ravens receiving and like a little over 1/3 of the Ravens receptions. Zay had 5 catches for 58 receiving yards, making some big plays, had some big catches downfield, had some big first downs. So shout out to Zay. He's been the juggernaut of this offense. He has been one of the only true positives. Like, he has been really like the only true receiving weapon on this team recently, because Devontae Walker was second in receiving yards with 1 catch for 30 yards. Derrick Henry had 2 catches for 24 yards. DeAndre Hopkins had 2 catches for 13 yards. Isaiah Likely, who is one of the most disappointing players of this Ravens season. I don't know if it's the foot injury that he had over training camp, because all of the reports that we were getting out of training camp was that Isaiah Likely is a beast. And he has looked like the complete opposite so far this season. But Isaiah Likely, 1 catch for 10 yards. Mark Andrews, 1 catch for 9 yards. Mark Andrews and Isaiah Likely both had very disappointing days. Only 2 catches for the tight ends combined. Keaton Mitchell had 1 catch for 9 yards. And those are all the receptions and yards in this game. So not a lot of passing yards at all. But it's been like that over the past few weeks. So the receiving game and the explosive plays have just not been there. The rushing really hasn't been there. This offense really just hasn't been there. It doesn't really feel like they're clicking at all. It doesn't really feel like they have any sort of rhythm. And they really need to figure it out fast, because the season is obviously winding down. And the Ravens are in a position right now where they're in a good position to win the division, but they have stuff to work out. They have to find ways to get better. And I know that they can, but something needs to happen. Like, something needs to kind of go through these coaches' brains, because what we're watching right now, this is not the Ravens. If you put the Ravens right now into the playoffs right now, we would get absolutely destroyed. Because this team just does not look like a playoff team to me. I understand they're winning the division. I understand it's happy, it's nice. I'm excited. Like trust me, I am very happy that the Ravens are winning the division. But they just don't, like, this team's goal is to win a championship. We're not one of those teams that are just going to be satisfied with making the postseason. Like, this team's goal is to win a Super Bowl. And if the Ravens aren't going to go win a Super Bowl, then it's a failure of a season. Because that's the only thing that they have to do. We've seen them make the AFC Championship game. We've seen them win in the second round. We've seen them win in the first round. You know, like, this team's goal is to go to the Super Bowl and win it. That is the goal. And this is not a Super Bowl team at all. The defense has been playing excellent. Is it a Super Bowl defense? Probably not. You know, they've been playing some really bad teams recently and doing great against them, but I want to see this Ravens defense up against, like, the Steelers in a couple of weeks, or, you know, the Patriots in like a month, or the Packers or whatever. But this offense right now needs some work. And it's crazy because at the start of the season, this Ravens offense scored 40 points in back-to-back games to start the year, then had 30 points in the third week, and this offense looked unstoppable earlier on in the season. And now this offense is struggling to just get a drive going, and I think a lot of that has to do with Lamar Jackson playing hurt, and I also just think it has to do with this offensive line collapsing on a week-to-week basis, and just the play calling not being there for Todd Monken at all. I think Todd Monken has done a horrendous job at play calling this season. I don't think that he's putting any of these receivers in positions to win, and when you combine the play calling with the offensive line, with Lamar playing hurt, it's just not a good combination at all, and it leads to some sloppy games. But the Ravens have found ways to go out there and win, even when it hasn't looked great. Even in games where they were favored by a lot, it just hasn't looked great sometimes. The Ravens were 14.5-point favorites. They didn't cover that spread. They won by 13, but still a convincing win. A 13-point win, you'll take that. But it was looking really bad in the first half, but they did pick it up in the second half. I do want to talk about the defense. I want to shout out Draymond Jones. He had 1.5 sacks in this game. I want to shout out Mike Green. He had a sack. I want to shout out Taven Bryan. He had half a sack. So shout out to these guys. Also want to shout out Alohi Gilman for recovering a fumble. And then also TJ Tampa had an interception, and Marlon Humphrey also forced a fumble as well. And then Alohi Gilman recovered it. So going over to the team stats in general, the Ravens did force 2 turnovers from the Jets. The Ravens didn't turn the ball over themselves, which is really good to see. Good to have, obviously possession of the ball all the time. So the Ravens defense did force 2 turnovers on the Jets. The Ravens had 1 more first down. The Jets had better third down efficiency. I mean, the Ravens were 2 for 11 on third down efficiency today. Like, that's horrible. We were 2 for 2 on fourth down, which is nice. We were 2 for 2 on fourth down. But 2 for 11 on third down is just not great at all. And a lot of it, again, had to do with Lamar's struggles, had to do with the offensive line. It was just a mess. And there was also 4 drops in this game or something by the receivers. I don't know if it's the receivers just not getting open for Lamar, or if it's just the offensive line collapsing the play before it can ever develop. But it just seems like nobody's really getting open for Lamar other than Zay Flowers. And not having Rashad Bateman's going to affect that, but guys like DeAndre Hopkins, your tight ends, and Isaiah Likely, Mark Andrews, those are supposed to be your receiving threats. And Zay Flowers seems like the only one out there really committed to winning sometimes, and it's just disappointing, but hopefully it'll just get better as the season goes on. Hopefully this team can kind of mesh more together. Hopefully the offensive line play can get better, and hopefully this team can find its identity very quickly as we head into the final upcoming stretch of the regular season. But we've talked over and over about this 6-game stretch between the Bears, the Dolphins, the Browns, the Vikings, the Jets, and obviously the Bengals on Thursday. We've won 5 straight, and I'm proud of them for winning 5 straight. I'm proud of them for, just going out there and winning games, because anything can happen in the NFL, and I'm proud of them for winning and getting themselves in a position to be first place. But this team has got to figure it out on offense, and this has to be more consistent on offense, because once again, when you go over to the red zone, we were 2 for 5 in the red zone in terms of touchdowns. We had 5 red zone trips, and we scored a touchdown on 2 of them. This team should be converting in the red zone every single time they get there, or damn near every time. 80% of the time, they should be scoring a touchdown when they get in the red zone. You have Derrick Henry, you have Lamar Jackson, you have two great tight ends, great quote-unquote. I mean, they have not played well this year, but I'd say likely Mark Andrews. Mark Andrews has been fine, but and then you have Zay Flowers, Rashad Bateman whenever he's healthy, DeAndre Hopkins, guys like that. This offense is built for short yardage situations and red zone situations, and they're just not good in those areas. And that's all to do with the play calling. It's not to do with the team construction. It is to do with the play calling from Todd Monken. That needs to get better. He said it needs to get better after last game, and it remains true. It needs to get better. The Ravens had 3 sacks, and the Jets only had 1. So again, only 1 sack on Lamar Jackson. The Jets had more total yards. They had 282 total yards to the Ravens 241. The Ravens had 1 more total play. The Ravens had 1 more drive. The Jets averaged more yards per play. The Ravens had more rushing. We had 98 rushing yards. The Jets had more passing yards. But again, 2 for 5 in the red zone is unacceptable. 2 for 5 in the red zone, 2 for 11 on third down. That is disgraceful. That needs to get cleaned up, because when you clean those things up, it's going to make everything just a lot more smoother, a lot more cleaner, and a lot more points are going to go on the board, which is what this team is capable of. And I think sometimes we did a good job moving down the field, but they have to punch it in the red zone. Like when the defense puts you in a good position or the special teams puts you in a good position, you have to take advantage of that every single time. And they just haven't been able to do a good job of that, which sucks. But time of possession, the Ravens were winning 31-28. And the Ravens had 5 penalties compared to the Jets 6. But again, 2 for 5 in the red zone, 2 for 11 on third down. Just horrible. Like that is horrible. Like just not great from them at all. But I am happy that they won. I am happy that they got the win, and I am happy that they are currently sitting at first in the AFC North. If you can see right here, the Ravens are first. The Ravens are 6-5, have the tiebreaker over the Steelers because they have a better divisional record. The Bengals are 3-8, and the Browns are 3-8. So this division is between the Ravens and the Steelers, like it is most years. We are going to be playing the Bengals on Thursday. They're currently sitting at 3-8. I mean, their season is over, but they are they are most likely going to be getting Joe Burrow back, which is going to be interesting. It's going to make that game a lot more interesting and fun. But we have won 5 games in a row. Things are looking really, really, really good for the Ravens right now. But they do have to just get better on offense, get better at executing the red zone, mesh together more well in terms of the offensive line. That needs to get fixed. And just being ourselves, like being what the Ravens offense is, which is explosive plays, Lamar Jackson being Lamar, dominating the run game, and dominating in the red zone. Like that's what the Ravens are supposed to do, and they just haven't been able to do that at a good rate this year. The red zone offense has been bad. The running game hasn't been going as dominant as you would want, and Lamar Jackson over the past couple of games just has not been the Lamar Jackson that we know. So hopefully everyone can kind of just regroup, get back together, and really find their identity and move forward throughout the season and just get better as these weeks go on, starting now. Because the past couple of games have not been very convincing, have been a little bit sloppy, but a little bit ugly. We're winning, but it's not with like super convincing wins. But again, this is a week-by-week league. You have to try and just get better week by week, and hopefully the Ravens can start doing that really soon. And hopefully the Kyle Hamilton injury is not anything too serious, which John Harbaugh said that it wasn't. And thank you guys so much for tuning into and listening to this episode of Birds of a Feather. If you like this content, make sure to subscribe on YouTube, follow up on Spotify, make sure to click the link in the bio to check out the Twitter and the Instagram. I live tweet every single Ravens game and Orioles game, obviously whenever baseball season is happening. But every single Ravens game, I'm live tweeting all my opinions, reactions to every single moment. So make sure to give the Twitter a follow. It's a lot of fun over there. Again, I appreciate and love you guys so much. Thank you for all the support. And again, the Ravens get a big win. They've won 5 in a row. They're winning the division right now. Very good things coming out of Baltimore, but the play on the field can be a little bit better, especially if we actually want to accomplish what we want to accomplish, which is winning a Super Bowl. This team on offense is going to really have to kind of regroup together and really just figure out their identity and just get things going in a smooth rhythm, which I know that they can because they've done it many times before. So just getting Lamar back, fully hopefully healthy and just back locked in. Because once this team can kind of find a rhythm, once this team can get its rhythm fully going, especially in the red zone offense and the offensive line is the two biggest things. Once those can get cleaned up, hopefully, this team can be really rolling, and we'll be back. We'll be back in business. And the defense has been playing great. The special teams has been playing incredible. Shout out Jordan Stout. He was a stud today. Again, I appreciate you guys so much. I'll see you guys tomorrow. Tomorrow, I think the Ravens are going to be back at practice because, again, we play on Thursday. So very quick turnaround. We're only going to have 3 days in between today and Thursday's game, so only 3 days in between. So there is going to be practice tomorrow and on Tuesday, and then I think Wednesday might be like a walkthrough or something like that. I think tomorrow's a walkthrough as well, but again, we'll see everything tomorrow. We'll get an update on the Kyle Hamilton injury, and hopefully everything is good with that. But again, I'll see you guys tomorrow. You have a great Steelers day. Go O's, go Ravens, and I'll see you later. Peace out.